Hey everyone, welcome to Motivation Inspired. My name is Isaac. If you're checking this channel out for the very first time, make sure you follow me on the journey by clicking the subscribe button. Make sure you're liking it and you're sharing it. And also, I like for you to comment at the end of the video. Today we're going to be talking about promise or not to promise coming up. In this video, I have 4 tips that's going to help you to promise or not to promise. So let's dive into this right now and let's get down to business, right? Starting with number 1. What is your motive behind your promise? That's right. To me, when I make a promise, I'll give you the definition. That's making sure, assurance. It's an assurance that you're telling people that you will do certain things. Now, I know people say that very light. And there's some people that really take that to heart, right? So when you promise somebody something, you expect that they will come through. I know me, myself, if somebody promised, it just depends. Either I hold my breath or it doesn't happen. That's where we come into play, where promise or not to promise. So the first thing you need to understand is behind the motive. What is your promise? Why are you promising someone that you will accomplish, and you're given that assurance that it's going to get done? Why do we put ourselves in a position to actually have issues when it comes to that? So when you make a promise, find out the motive behind the promise. Why are you doing it? Ask you that question. Now that we know the motive behind and we're ready to promise somebody, what do we need to do? Be realistic about your promises. Figure out what's real behind the promise. Have checks and balances in the promises. Yes, for I can do this, or no, I can't do that. Well, then you can't promise. So it's rather you not open your mouth and say something that you can't accomplish, because it's something that you yourself can't fulfill. So be realistic. Start focusing on doing what's realistic behind the motive. Okay, so having a motive, now you're being realistic about the whole thing. You got to stop and think. Did you know that making these promises are so critical? Why? I'm gonna tell you why. I've experienced this many times in a lot of different examples, which I don't have time to share. But I'm going to share something with you that's going to help you understand the motive, being realistic, and really don't say nothing unless you can actually fulfill your promise. I'm a very stickler because I've experienced me saying, I promise I'll do this, I promise I'll do that. Guess what? That's when you have trust issues, right? And when we have these trust issues, that person can't trust you for anything. Why? Because you say you're going to do something and you can't fulfill it. You're not being realistic. You don't have a motive behind what you're going to accomplish. There are a lot of people out there, they're saying, I don't know about this guy. He always promised me doing this, or this gal, or, they always say, I promise I'll do this. And guess what? It doesn't get fulfilled. So it becomes a problem. So make sure that you are behind the motive of what you're going to accomplish. This is the biggest thing, that when it comes to relationships, promises are made and they're not fulfilled. When you are in a relationship and you're doing something, let's say a husband and wife, you're together, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you decide to say, I promise that I'm going to do certain things. I promise that I will fulfill that. And guess what? You know who gets hurt? The spouse. That's right. The spouse gets hurt because way too many promises are fulfilled, and you're really saying that probably to maybe go on a different subject. Well, guess what? It can hurt a relationship by you promising things. Why? First of all, they can't trust you, and that you would break that covenant between you and your spouse simply because of a promise. Believe me, it happens all the time. So let me encourage you that when you make a promise, you need to fulfill every aspect of what things are going to occur. So keep your mouth shut. Don't say nothing. If you can't do it, let's just be real, everyone. Don't say a word because it can affect your relationship with your spouse. So, with that said, there you go. You're probably saying to yourself, Isaac, when are you going to say, how do you handle when you break promises? Well, very simple. There are times that you may have certain conflicts of things that are going on, and you have commitments that are more stronger than your promise. Now, I got to say this for the record, just for the record. If you promise and you fulfilled your promises, these are for the people that promise and they've gone through their promises and they fulfill it, then they know people can trust you. Occasionally, things happen, guys, where promises are broken. That's right. Promises can be broken simply because of a circumstance that happened. Okay, but you have to ask the question. What is the situation? You have to iron out the situation basically. Okay, so let's be real about it. Okay, if people you've already trust in the past and they made these promises and they fulfill the promise, don't hold that against them. Don't. Because they broke a promise, it happens. It happens, okay? So we move on, okay? And that's how we go into a trust, that we build that trust, we promised, and they fulfilled it, right? So there you have it. Thanks for watching Motivation Inspired. I'm hoping that this was something that you can think about and talk about it to your friends. I want you to share also this video. Make sure you're subscribing, you're following me, you're not missing out on any video because I post frequently, so you want to make sure you're joining me on my journey. We'll see you next time.